Hello everyone and welcome back to From Our Basement Gaming.
Hi everybody.
We are back with part 11 of our Legend of Zelda Let's Play.
Yes, after a holiday break, at the time of recording, we returned to the land of Hyrule to rescue Zelda because a certain bag of bugs had
taken up a lot of our time.
Yes.
Now, I will address the elephant in the room right now. I probably already addressed it by the time you're watching this, but just in case you didn't see that message and already watched part 10, you will realize that I was acting like it wasn't October yet. I was acting like it was only September, and that's because it was.
Yes.
Because silly me made a scheduling mistake. I thought that Legend of Zelda would have 5 episodes in September, but it only had 4. Whoops. So if you were very confused, like, have I gone back in time? Why are they acting like October hasn't happened yet? That is why.
Right. So, yeah, that explains our struggles and agony and frustrations at trying to save the day in the previous chapter.
Yes.
And I think I have enough money to buy medicine, which I desperately need.
It is nice to see that whole chunk of Triforce.
Yes, I love seeing that whole chunk of Triforce.
Yes.
Yes.
The Triforce of Wisdom.
Yep. The evil Ganon has the Triforce of Power.
Yes. It's up to you, Link.
Hey, for you, Zelda, anything!
Hey man, I know we cringe about it now, but I imagine for 80s kids, that was like the coolest thing ever.
I think so too.
Especially for kids who maybe felt like they were too cool for the Super Show. Because don't tell me there weren't kids like that. I'm sure there are.
Yeah.
There were.
And from what I've heard, it was cool. And from what I've heard, their plans for the Super Show was actually going to be a lot more ambitious than what we actually had.
Right.
Because there were talks about having a Double Dragon cartoon, a Castlevania cartoon, and the part that hurts the most, and it's criminal that this didn't happen, a Metroid cartoon.
Yeah.
So...
Yeah, I mean, I think, sadly, I kind of felt like, I could be completely wrong, but I kind of felt like in the 90s, was Captain N in the 90s? I think so.
It
Late
was
80s.
both. It technically started in the 80s, but it kept going until 91, 92.
So, okay, so still the 80s. Well, that works with my theory anyway.
Yeah.
So I kind of feel like Captain N was like their little experiment.
Yeah.
And they were, probably wanting to do what in modern days we would call a Nintendo cartoon universe. I can't call it cinematic because they're not movies.
Right. Television, cartoon.
Television universe, whatever you want to call it. They wanted to make a overarching, like, Nintendo verse.
Right.
Now...
So the bad idea was always there, just it wasn't until...
Yeah, and I feel like the lack of... I mean, Captain N probably had some mild success, but not... my theory, anyway, is it didn't really have big enough success to warrant them to go forward with that plan. So I do believe that Captain N was the nail in the coffin for a lot of those cartoons.
Right. And the other factor that went in is... Yeah, they ultimately... Oh, wait a minute, I realized something. I didn't get my magical shield. So essentially, the other factor too, I think, was that they kind of got exhausted with it, and instead of actually making individual Super Show cartoons, because Mario and Zelda was paired into Super Show, they just smushed it all into what would become Captain N, like you were saying.
Yeah. Yeah, 'cause, I mean, Captain N, I think by its later episodes it did have crossover with Zelda.
It did.
And I think, I don't remember if it actually had a crossover with Mario or if there was only a planned one.
Right. Some of those ideas, yeah. Right. Definitely, yeah. Some of those ideas would ironically get recycled into other cartoons, like the big example, Double Dragon became its own series.
Right. Yeah, don't mind us, we found out that there was a part of the dungeon that we were missing,
which is right here.
That, will give us an item that will really help.
Yes. Though eventually I probably would have to, if I don't complete it, get the other a new magical shield. That's a lot easier.
Yes.
Oh, right. I have to bomb this wall.
So that's like an even bigger skull.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
It's a massive one.
Because, at points in the previous part, I was running around in circles because I did not know where I was going. Oh, boy. I need medicine. Funny, as you pointed out, funny how they just pause as I'm taking my meds. Yeah,
which, they do that in some of the newer games, too. Like in Ocarina of Time, it's even more hilarious because everything stops. And Link takes out his bottle and drinks his potion, and it's like, it's just, I'm like, no offense, but I don't think that monsters would actually be that generous in real life.
Right.
I think you'd literally have to duck and cover in a safe spot.
Right.
And take your potion and then fight.
Yeah, I'm reminded of a joke. How did the monsters stay put when the Power Rangers morphed into that, or how did they stay put when Sailor Moon transformed?
Yeah, that was really hilarious that there was this episode of a Japanese show where they literally were arguing that their theory was all the bright flashing lights were these really powerful either laser or radiation or
wow.
Basically something that if the villains got to it would really hurt them.
Right.
So, but I think they were, even though they referenced to Sailor Moon, I think they were talking about Pretty Cure more.
That makes sense.
Yeah. So, but it was really just entertaining to me to see a Japanese television show basically talking about their headcanons. Because there was no confirmation that any of this was true. It was just speculation. And I just love that stuff, and I feel like we should, just in general do more of that and normalize it, because we all have here, at the end of the day, we all have something we are a nerd for.
Yes, we are.
Some of us, multiple things.
Yeah.
So, we really should normalize it more. I feel like Japan should normalize it more too, but, in general, society should normalize it more and not be so, shame.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Some people know what Bush in in the grass to burn to get to that other heart piece in this game, and others know how to how many home runs were scored in the World Series from some year.
Yeah, and exactly. It's good that you brought up sports, because that's something like our society takes for granted, and we don't point at sports fanatics and call them a nerd, and make fun of them for liking what they like, because it's such a mainstream thing, like, to the point where if you don't like sports, you're kind of looked at as weird.
Yeah.
And it's like, why don't we just, no matter what it is, let people like what they like? Because, yeah,
agreed.
There are sports fans that get really nerdy about it. That they,
oh, yeah.
They pay attention to the stats of every individual player, and they're like, I like this player because A, B, and C, they can talk about the strengths and weaknesses of that player, and, recall in 1996 how many home runs Babe Ruth got,
Yeah, certainly in 1926, but yes, exactly. Exactly, there are a lot of people who love that stuff.
I thought I said 96.
Yeah.
But, I'm confused, but that's okay.
That's alright.
I was just using a random year and a name of a player I knew.
Exactly. But you made a valid point. Yeah. People know that stuff.
Yeah, so I mean, and also, by the way, this is also very important. If you really, really love something and you're not super knowledgeable about it, that is also okay.
Exactly.
I don't want any, because there are plenty of things I'm like that for, like that I like, but I don't know every excruciating detail.
I don't know every excruciating detail either. Especially now, it's a lot harder to keep up with.
Right. And I mean, like, with the stuff I like, I didn't go to film school or animation school or study that, intricately.
Yeah.
Where, like, I can say, oh, I can tell that this was done digitally and not by hand, and this was 4 frames per second at 60p, or I don't know. You can tell I don't know what I'm talking about. So
that's okay.
But yeah, I had people will talk about, well, this is the frame rate of cartoons versus the frame rate of anime, and I assume they're able to do that because they studied some of it in school, or they just read a bunch of articles about it and memorized it all.
Most likely, yes.
Or watched YouTube videos. That's the nice thing about the internet, is knowledge is so accessible, and often in an easily digestible way. Think about it. There was probably one point in time that a lot of the knowledge we take for granted was just kept to the high-class, educated people who could afford to go to college.
And we were at their mercy, and that wasn't always a good thing, because some of them were complete jerks who took full advantage of the fact that not every person knew every single detailed knowledge about...
And I mean,
Yeah. I mean, some things, like medical decisions, you do need the expert. But...
Oh, God, yes. It's fine to look up that stuff on the internet, but, like, just as a starting or reference point, you probably should get an expert opinion.
Right.
Nowadays, you can access free courses online for a wide array of subjects.
I didn't know it could bleed into the other side of the screen.
Wow, yeah. And you can also, find tutorials very easily for things, or, if a course is too academic-y for you, and it's, oh my god,
And
it's him!
I don't think I'm prepared.
Oh no. What do you still need?
The silver arrow.
Oh dear.
I took a wrong turn indeed. Although if I can defeat it without it, that'd be amazing.
There's Ganon himself.
Yes.
I keep thinking the black parts are holes,
Yeah.
but they're not.
But you can walk, right?
Yeah. So it throws me off. I was there thinking, man, this is difficult because we have to maneuver on that little skull, and then I'm like, oh wait, no. It's actually easier than that.
Yeah.
Not to say it's easy, but my brain was making it out to be much harder.
I fully understand.
Yeah. Ooh. He is,
Red. And that's why I need the silver arrow.
I see. Well, that's okay. I guess when
If I die in this, well...
they'll be able to...
Well,
You
ladies
know
and
where
gentlemen,
the
it's up there on the far left end of the skull.
Oh, you just walked into the wrong room.
I did walk into the wrong room, and
I did not know you could do that in the first game.
yes. Oh boy. I guess save.
Well, don't
and
worry,
we'll
guys.
keep
I
going.
think this will be relatively...
No, yeah, it shouldn't be too hard.
I bet you guys didn't know that Ganon was originally in Death Mountain.
Yeah.
I certainly didn't.
Yeah.
Since my first game was Ocarina of Time, I kind of always assumed that that's where the Gorons lived.
Right.
But I don't think Gorons are even in this game.
Oddly enough, no.
The Zora are.
Yeah, and they're bad guys.
Yeah.
So...
Now, I have a counter theory to what Hyrule Historia has
do tell.
officially said. So I have counter opinion to the canon.
Do tell.
Although I don't know if Hyrule Historia is actually canon, it's just the assumed canon. But anyway, so they say that, you know, since this is like the apocalyptic, like near the end of the timeline crap.
I hate
that Zoras used to be like more like people and friendly, and that they like devolved to become more fish-like and more monstrous. Because they eventually became like, they gradually were like less and less trusting of Hylians, so they kind of stopped interacting with them, and that's why they became more primitive, I guess. So my counter argument is maybe it's the opposite.
That's what I believed.
Yeah, that like before they actually before the Hylians and the Zora got to know each other, they were more fish-like and didn't really talk or walk upright, or
that they evolved to be
more human once the Hylians evolved as well, because look, they're in a bunch of like cave dwellings.
Yeah. Because...
So if we think about it generationally,
yeah,
the Hylians were also more primitive.
Yeah. Especially after, because in this world, Ganon has taken over the world.
Yeah, so probably many of their villages were destroyed, so they're kind of starting over.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have to mean apocalypse. It could just be as simple as Ganon took over, the world's inhabited by monsters, they were pushed out of their villages that got destroyed anyway.
Right. They're at desperate, dire straits in this world. Not that the apocalypse happened, but that they're in a bad spot and they needed the hero to rescue them.
Because in the second game, they have villages. They have houses. So, anyway, so I'm thinking, once peaceful times come again, maybe they start to realize, oh, the Zora are not our enemy. And the Zoras realize it too. Oh, we don't have to be afraid of Hylians. We don't have to attack them to defend ourselves.
I had enough to buy
Oh.
at the start of the video.
Oh well.
And yeah, exactly. And I think by that point, the Zoras were probably thinking about that they might have been better off relating with the Hylians as opposed to Ganon and his moblins.
Yeah, it's so over time, by being closer to the Hylians, they started to learn their language. They evolved to be able to walk upright and look more human.
And develop positive relations with the Hylians.
I mean, that's my opinion, and I know it.
Mine too.
I have to do more research to see if Hyrule Historia is the canon. I'm guessing it is, but it kind of hurts me. It is canon that physically hurts me.
It's like trying to make up a off-the-wall fairy tale after the fact, and
yeah, I think my biggest issue with it was the disclaimer they had that since this is all being recounted from legends that were told, and that there may be differences in the future. They kind of, I don't remember how they worded it, but they basically put in this
the thing that, the disclaimer.
The disclaimer that they put in was kind of like a loophole for like, this is how when we make new games that have new lore,
we'll go back to this.
Yeah, we're gonna
bonkers,
point this out. We'll point
off
this
the wall, hard to comprehend lineage that is now the lineage.
I mean, it's that too. The new games, they are kind of trying to make it with the lore that they officially released. But the problem I have with the statement they made is that if we make anything that seems to contradict what we've written in here, actually we haven't, because the stories have changed throughout the multiple generations, so it's always going to be different. And to me, it was kind of a cop-out.
It is.
That's just my opinion.
Sorry, ladies and gentlemen, it is a cop-out.
But, yeah.
You do stuff like that.
Yeah, so it feels like, if we have... And it's true, that was my biggest problem with the timeline theory, is that there already is canon established within some of the stories that don't match up with the canon in the other games.
Right.
So that's why...
I was perfectly happy with the idea that the Zelda games happened from start to finish, like this was the start of the timeline, and no ifs, bends, or...
Well, not only that, but like, it doesn't all have to be connected.
Right.
It doesn't all have to be the same timeline.
Yeah.
And
as you pointed out.
I feel like superhero fans are gonna hate me, but I feel like...
Yeah.
I feel like the popularity of superhero movies, especially the movies, have kind of made connecting everything in a franchise normalized to the point where, like, everybody expects it. And if you don't do it, then you're an outlier in a bad way. And I just don't agree with that. I mean...
Right.
I think it's okay to connect some things and keep other things separate.
Yeah.
Like, to me, that's the easiest way to approach Legend of Zelda, that some of the games are connected with each other and others aren't. And I believe if you really need it all to take place in the same universe, just use multiple generations. But,
yeah, you're telling me that actually made more sense, I felt.
Right.
I was playing these games, and this is back in, like, Wind Waker times. Well, post-Wind Waker, Minish Cap, you told me this.
Right.
And that logistically makes more sense that there's actually multiple generations of Link and or Zelda who grew up.
And oh, sorry, go ahead.
Had their own stories and challenges and had to deal with other factors, like arguably A Link to the Past / Triforce of the Gods is the next wave of Link and Zelda that lasted up until the Ocarina of Time when that generation starts, because by then it's probably even more time had passed since.
Yeah, and I don't feel like they all have to be reincarnations of each other.
Right.
And that's the probably to me one of the most, in my opinion, controversial things, or like biggest thing that I kind of struggled with, that Skyward Sword started, the Legend of Zelda Skyward Sword. Because that's Hyrule Historia came out to celebrate Skyward Sword, and by the way, Legend of Zelda Skyward Sword, at least at the time that this edition of Hyrule Historia that I have was written, was considered the first Zelda game in all 3 timelines.
Yeah, so let's twist and turn everything like a pretzel to try to jam the square peg into the circular hole, as they say.
I mean, I guess. It was just... I don't know. But yeah, I felt like Wind Waker itself made it clear that there are multiple generations of Link and Zelda, because literally part of its story was that, you know, Link saved Hyrule from Ganon and then left somewhere. And then everybody freaked out because Ganon came back, but Link didn't come back. And they waited and waited, and Link did not come back. And apparently nobody else was able to defeat Ganon. And
so
I can talk more about Hyrule's story later. Something about it sinking to the bottom of the ocean. I don't know how that happened. That's why Wind Waker's a little messy to me. But
it is.
But it happened.
With the new generation of Toon Link and Toon Zelda that would fit right into a Cartoon Network show.
And then I poor Cartoon Network.
Sorry, Cartoon Network.
But anyway, yeah. You can tell we have opinions, strong opinions.
Everyone.
No, it's okay. But anyway, so I guess the remaining Hylians, or the descendants of the Hylians, settled on these islands. And what they basically did, and I think they were doing this before Hyrule sank, I'm not exactly sure, but what they started doing was, okay, every son we have, we are going to name him Link.
Yep.
And every daughter we have, we are going to name her Zelda, because they were hoping that their son would end up being the chosen one. Like, oh, if I name my son Link, then it'll be his destiny. He will be Link. He will be the one to defeat Ganon, should Ganon return again.
One of them has to be.
Yeah. If we keep
one.
naming all of our sons Link, eventually one of them will be the Link. And that was the thought with Zelda as well, because she played a big part of the prophecy as well.
Yes.
Because in order to defeat Ganon, who represents the Triforce of Power, you need to have Princess Zelda, who's the Triforce of Wisdom, and spoilers, but Link, who's the Triforce of Courage.
Yep.
It's not that spoilery if you're a big Zelda
fan. Yeah, if you've played these games before, you kind of know the gist already.
But for those of you who don't know, sorry, spoilers.
Yeah, I'm amazed. How did you know this whole time without knowing? I'm impressed.
How did you know this whole time without knowing?
Yeah.
Did you even go Did you mean how did you go this whole time without knowing?
Maybe. Whichever's more grammatically correct.
I think the second one. Although knowing without knowing is kind of an interesting one. Alright, we actually are at 30 minutes, so I guess we will stop here.
Alright.
Alright, guys, it's been a great one, and we will see you next time.
We'll see you next time, yes.
Bye.
Bye.